Am I the jerk for not talking with my sibling, for wrecking my motorcycle? Yesterday, I finished my motorcycle safety foundation course and got my motorcycle license. To celebrate, some mutual friends of my brother and I got together and rode to his house. He does not own a bike but swears up and down he knows how to ride and can handle anything. I have let him ride my bike a little bit before. When we got there, I went inside and talked to his girlfriend for a bit while he was outside helping a friend work on their bike. When I went back out, he was waiting by the door and started his sentence with, "Before you get mad." I looked past him and saw our friends lifting my bike out of the grass and assessing the damage. He proceeded to explain that he just wanted to do a lap in the yard. It is a street bike and is not meant to be ridden in grass, especially wet grass. What he left out was that he was trying to fishtail the back wheel to impress his friends. In doing so, the back tire slipped out from under him and the bike flipped on top of him, breaking the left mirror and left foot peg, and bending both the handlebar and clutch. I lost my mind after seeing he was not injured and yelled at him for a solid 10 minutes straight. He just rolled with the punches. You could tell he felt bad and embarrassed about the whole thing, but I cannot help but feel like he betrayed me and outright disrespected me by not asking and just doing it without caring. I do not know if it is because of how mad I was, but his apology felt more like an embarrassed child than a grown adult who knew better. He has paid for new parts and offered to help fix it. It is still rideable, but it is just not in a good state. I leave to move into my new apartment tomorrow, and now I have to leave my bike to fix it when the parts arrive. I know he feels bad. My mother even called me to tell me he has been crying about it and how sorry he feels. However, I cannot even look at him right now, let alone talk to him. You did nothing improper. It's completely understandable to feel angry and hurt given the situation. He needs to take full responsibility for fixing the bike, and hopefully, he's learned a tough lesson from this experience. You should take all the time you need to process your feelings and forgive him when you're ready. Am I the jerk for getting involved? For context, I, a 28-year-old male, went to get vape juice for the week and decided to get some snacks since I am babysitting a friend's child for a few hours with my 24-year-old female girlfriend. I went to a gas station a quarter-mile away from the vape shop since it's closed, and I have been there before. I walked in, got my things, and went to check out. Upon doing so, I heard a lady talking to the cashier. Here's how the dialogue went. Random lady: "Why are the bathrooms closed?" Cashier: "They're closed right now so we can deep clean them." Random lady: "Yeah right, you lazy people locked it because you all want clean them. You all are a bunch of crooks." Cashier: "Ma'am, can you refrain from that language please?" Random lady: "Forget you, do your job." At this point, I had to say something, so I joined the conversation. Me: "Ma'am, if you're talking like this to anybody who provides you a service, you're going to get banned from every place you ever try to go." Random lady: "Mind your own business, pipsqueak." Me: "I'll mind it when you learn to mind your manners." At this point, the lady walked away from the ATM and smacked me in the chest, telling me to watch myself. I just stared down at her since she is roughly 5'4" and I am 5'8". I told her, "Do it again or say anything else to this nice cashier who's just doing her job and you'll leave, peacefully or not." She then left, storming off and forgetting her phone and all the things she was trying to buy. Apparently her card wasn't working, so she didn't end up buying anything. She noticed she left her phone, came back inside to grab it while the cashier was checking me out, and screamed out loud, "Soy boy," which I know was aimed at me. The cashier informed me she was a former employee. She had apparently stolen money directly from the register and was caught by management and camera systems in the middle of the day doing this, so she was instantly let go. I normally don't get involved in things that don't involve me, but cashiers and any service workers can't say what needs to be said to people like this in the moment without some kind of backlash. I stepped in because this woman was being outright disrespectful. There were 2 other men and another woman in the store. The men were older and probably didn't want to bother, and the woman was keeping her distance in the back by the drinks for her own safety. I was right up front trying to check out, so by circumstance I got involved. So, am I the asshole? You are not in the wrong here, but it's important to be mindful of how actions can be perceived. Your intentions were to help, and the cashier didn't seem to mind or be offended. However, sometimes it's best to let the staff handle situations themselves. There's always a chance it could escalate in unexpected ways. Am I the jerk for wanting neighbors to ask before parking in my driveway? I really want an objective answer, so I will try to lay out the facts as unbiased as possible. I live in a residential inner-city neighborhood where parking is somewhat tight. On our street, the homes mostly have a single parallel parking space in front and at least 1 space or garage on a back alley. Families universally have 2 cars, so while there is enough parking for residents, it can be difficult for guests. Our home is unique in that it has 2 driveways, which fit 4 cars in total. This is because we own the adjacent lot to our house. It's nice to have the extra parking for our friends, family, and cleaners. However, the extra spaces are often vacant. We regularly come home to find strangers parked in our extra spaces, even overnight and a couple of times for the entire weekend. We put up a sign that says private driveway on the fence fronting the extra space, to no avail. Last night, I came home to 2 huge pickup trucks crammed into the driveway that is right in front of our house, not even the one in front of the spare lot. Strangers park in our driveway at least once a week, sometimes more, and I want to know if I am the asshole for being annoyed. In fairness, we are not typically in need of the parking when it's being used by a stranger. It has happened a couple of times that guests had to squeeze in next to a random car, which is infuriating, but that is a rare occurrence. I genuinely don't mind having neighbors' friends park there if they just ask us. Both of our adjacent neighbors have asked ahead of visits by their friends and family, and we are more than happy to let them park. It's the assumption that really gets to me. I feel a twinge of guilt even when street parking in front of someone's house. I feel a little bad when I have to use someone's driveway to turn around. I genuinely cannot fathom parking in a stranger's driveway for 10 minutes, much less overnight. This is clearly not a life or death thing, and in the scheme of things, I'm lucky to be able to afford a house with extra parking. But I want to put a sticky note on the windshield of the next car that parks there that says, "If you want to park here, please just ask us." Am I the asshole? You are not the bad guy in this situation. It's wrong for anyone you don't know personally to park in your driveway in front of your house. Those are your parking spaces to do whatever you want with. Just put up a sign saying private driveway. Unauthorized cars will be towed. Am I the jerk for waiting to tell my best friend I got a job interview? A while back I, a 23-year-old female, went through a serious situation at work that caused some trauma. I have a new supervisor now, but the fear from what happened before still exists and stresses me out all the time, even months later. Every now and then, I look for other positions to apply for to get out of my current situation. A month ago, I found one I knew I was qualified for and would help me leave. I spoke with a coworker who knew about the situation, and they encouraged me to apply for it. I met the person I consider my best friend, a 24-year-old female, at this job when I started a year ago. She, another person who is a 30-year-old female, and I all became close. The other friend moved across the country at the beginning of the year for a better job. While we all knew it was for the best, my best friend was really sad about it because they were very close. My best friend knew about the problem that happened months ago and has previously encouraged me to leave my current position. When I told her I applied for this new position, she asked me if I was pulling a friend on her, meaning was I leaving her, even though I told her the position was still in the building. After a minute or two, she told me she was joking and the subject changed. Last week, I got an email to interview for the position. I chatted with the coworker who encouraged me to apply and let them know. I then texted my friend to tell her and asked her how I should let my best friend know because I was scared of how she would react. She told me to be honest with her that I needed to interview for this position for myself and that it was up to me whether I told her before or after the interview. At first, I was going to wait to tell her until after, but I realized I needed to be the bigger person about it and not be scared. 2 days after I got offered the interview, I told my best friend. She was quiet for a moment before saying, "That's great. I'm happy for you." "No, really, I am." I thanked her, and we continued our conversation. This was on Friday. I didn't hear from her over the weekend, which is unusual but not unheard of because people get busy. She replied to a text I sent her Monday morning and hasn't responded to me or acknowledged me since. We usually have lunch together at work, but that hasn't happened since before I got offered the interview. I think she may have found out about the interview before I was able to tell her. I can't say for sure since she hasn't acknowledged it. So Reddit, am I the asshole for waiting to tell the person I consider to be my best friend about the job interview? Honestly, her reaction pretty much confirms you are right to be concerned. People don't stay at jobs forever, especially if it's a bad environment. Your friend needs to understand that moving on to something healthier is important for you. Overall, it seems like you made the right choice for your well-being. Am I the jerk for reporting a maintenance issue to property management? I live in an apartment complex that is about 40 years old. Things break and need to be fixed as any property would. The management is picky about having things in shared spaces and has done an initiative to make the outside of the buildings and the hallways look more modern and consistent. They send emails about the smallest little infractions, including bird feeding and outdoor chairs. My neighbors and I have a group text where we share if there are any issues we are experiencing, such as electricity or hot water issues, and often one will create the report when there is a building problem. One time my neighbors had a plumbing issue and it flooded my unit. It took days to clean up, but I chalked it up to apartment living. They apologized profusely, and I did not even think it was their fault. I later learned that they had installed a bidet that the complex did not authorize, and they were chastised by maintenance about it. I do not know if that contributed to the plumbing issue. We have all been friendly and exchanged niceties whenever we cross paths. We have shared meals. Generally, nice neighborly things. I have shared various herb cuttings from my kitchen garden that I thought they might enjoy cooking with, and they decided to propagate and start growing them. This year, they got more interested in growing vegetables in containers and put them outside. I contributed to their new interest with some growing vegetables that I came across while at a farm store, and they were thrilled. The property management saw the early growth and asked them to stop. They found some line in the lease that allowed for a small number of blooming plants, so the management left them alone. Since then, they have expanded their garden and asked to place things close to my windows. I do not own the outdoors or use those areas, so I did not mind. Recently, we had rainstorms, and while walking in the building, I noticed a large hole where the ground had eroded under the concrete patio slab and the corner of the brick building. It was about 8 inches deep and 6 inches wide. I was alarmed and sent a message to the group chat since I did not want anyone to step in it or have their pet in the area where a foot or leg might get hurt. The main concern was a potential structural impact on the shared building. I sent a request, and the management fixed the issue. Once it was completed, they sent an email asking that whoever had plants move them in 4 days, or they would toss them. My neighbor was furious and said the hole was not my problem, and that had something happened, the property management would have to fix the building and compensate us for any inconvenience. I had no idea that the plants were in danger if maintenance were called to inspect the area, but I did not think of that because there was a huge hole that I felt was a risk to the entire building. Am I the asshole for reporting the issue? You are not responsible for this. You are looking out for everyone's safety, and if a problem is left long enough, it could become worse and create an even bigger issue. Unfortunately, apartment living comes with some limitations, and not being able to have a large personal vegetable garden is one of them. They'll have to figure out other arrangements for their Farmville dreams. Am I the jerk for yelling at my sibling for eating my noodles? To give some context, my brother, who is 20 years old, has always been unkind to me. I am freshly 18 years old. I don't believe he has ever apologized to anyone. He calls me a fat pig, tells me that I'm ugly and says I shouldn't eat so much. He has never apologized for it. He once broke my arm. I don't blame him. It was an accident. But instead of apologizing or helping me, he laughed at me for crying. He is also racist, homophobic, and transphobic. Today I woke up at 3 p.m. Usually when I wake up this late, I don't eat a big lunch so I'll still be hungry for dinner. So I only ate a cinnamon roll and went back to my room. My brother and I eat different things at lunch since he is a picky eater. He only wants my dad to buy this specific Danish dessert breakfast for him that he eats for lunch. He is very happy with this and doesn't want anything else. I really like those Korean bulldog noodles, but they recently got banned in Denmark, so I stocked up on them before the ban to eat for lunch. A while ago before the ban, my brother also took my bulldog noodles. That time I caught him and didn't get mad. I just showed him how to make them properly. Later I came to see if he liked them, only for him to say they were too spicy, which I had warned him about, and that he just didn't like the flavor. Today he came into my room at 5 p.m. while my dad was already in there. His mouth was completely orange. My dad asked if he ate the noodles, and he said yes. I told him that he's rude for doing that since they no longer sell them. He just said okay. 2 hours later at dinner, I made a joke that he couldn't possibly be hungry already. He didn't find this very funny and started grumbling. I asked if he ate the soup because that's what it looked like in the kitchen, and he said that he did. I was also kind of angry that he took my food and didn't even eat it properly. I told him that I think he's rude for eating my discontinued lunch, and that I never eat his food since I know that's all he eats and it would be disrespectful. I said, he's rude and if he can't see it himself then he's an idiot. My father said that my brother understands, so I asked my brother if he understands. He just grumbled while looking at his plate in an annoyed voice that he understands. 5 minutes later, my dad asked my brother if he wanted any cucumber. I said, I don't think he's that hungry. My brother took the cucumber in his hand and said, I'll stick this in your face if you don't shut up. I asked, stick this in my face? Since it didn't make sense. Before I finished my sentence, he flung the cucumber at my face, but I moved my head, so it hit the wall and bounced across the room. He angrily took another portion of food and went to his room. I started crying because, I told my dad that I would have forgiven him if he had just apologized without getting aggressive, and that I'm tired of him. Both of you sound more like children than young adults with the way this argument unfolded. The brother shouldn't have taken the noodles, especially since they're discontinued, but the relentless need to have the last word didn't help either. It's clear that this household needs better communication and a lot more respect on both sides. Everyone sucks here for turning what could have been a simple apology into an all-out war. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.